Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Well, I've called up the store there at Milton, West Virginia. Told them to run up there, up the holler to Gary Knapp's and see what he's up to these days. And by golly, we got him on the phone. How you doing, Gary?
Pretty good. Let me get this Copenhagen in my mouth.
All right, man. You got to have a good dip, don't you?
Oh, yeah. But anyway, we got 2 house bills that's been introduced here in West Virginia.
All right.
And the first House bill, to give you a loose summary, I'm not reading it, is that if you have bait out for deers during bear season and a bear comes into your deer bait, it's legal to kill him.
Okay. Is that the way it is now, or is this a new thing?
No, it's just new. You're not allowed to kill a bear over bait in West Virginia.
Okay. But now they're saying if he comes into your deer pile, you can shoot him. How are they going to regulate that?
Well, what the problem is, outfitters now will be able to sell bear hunts over bait.
Mm.
And the second bill is that you can bait any animal legally to hunt. It'll be turkeys, which the Turkey Federation ought to be raising Cain about it, bears or whatever. So there's 2 bills that we need, as West Virginians, we need to call in to the State House and tell them that we oppose them.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to give you do you happen to know the numbers of those bills?
Let's see, your smartphone's smarter than I am. Let me see if I can work it.
I tell you what, Gary, we can find those after we finish talking and post them in the notes with this podcast. But okay, these are House bills in the state legislature in West Virginia. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
They're both House bills.
Yes.
Okay. Sir. Do you know who the sponsor is?
I don't have that information.
Okay, but
right now, so
I got you.
It'll be on the stuff I'm going to send you. Will have the sponsors and the bill number and everything.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, before we get into that, and I'm sure, everybody's got an opinion on these sort of things, but I want my listeners to know I'm talking to Gary Knapp. And Gary, for many years, was the spokesperson for the West Virginia Bear Hunters Association. Gary and I have been friends for a long time. We both kind of like a brindle dog, although I think he's hunted all kinds down through the years and lives there. Is your address Milton, Gary?
No, it's Hurricane, but the store you called and they come up there and got me, it's between Hurricane and Milton.
Okay. Well, I know we used to, Gary used to write some columns for me when I was with the AKC. He's a real humorous guy, and don't want to blow your head up too big, Gary, but somebody that I've always enjoyed your friendship and talking to you. And when I got the phone call that you said some things were going on in West Virginia, well, that's like saying sick 'em to a bulldog. That's the old home stomping grounds for me, and
right.
I don't get back there nearly as much anymore as I'd like to, since my parents are gone, and my brother, he's moved down here to Florida with me. Well, not with me, but he's here in the same town, same area. So we really don't have the ties back to West Virginia that we used to, but I still love that place and always will be home to me. Before we get in, go ahead.
I was interested in a lot of flock hunters that follow you, and I need to get this word out to everybody. And I thought to myself, who better than to get a hold of than Steve Fielder to help me get this message out in opposition to these 2 bills.
Yeah, because Gary, West Virginia's always been pretty much a bait-free state, I guess. From the way you're talking, and I'm totally out the loop up there because I haven't really had any connections up there in quite a while, but that it is legal, I guess, to bait for deer, right? With
Correct.
corn or whatever.
At the present time, you can have feeders out, which is a part of baiting for raccoons. Okay, you can do that.
Okay.
And you can hunt deer over bait, bow or gun. So, but with bear, you're not allowed to bait them. Now, there was a lieutenant colonel, I won't call his name, but several years ago, we were having a discussion about this because I'd found out about some people baiting up in Preston County. And his response was, well, I don't see how that you can distinguish between baiting deers and baiting bears. And I said, I don't understand what you're saying. And he said, well, as long as you say you're baiting deers, you're baiting deers. I said, yo, let me tell you this. This is my response to that. If I come home from work today and you're sitting at my kitchen table eating dinner with my wife, I might not get too upset. But when I come home 3 days in a row and you're sitting at my kitchen table eating dinner with my wife, I'm going to be mad because you're there for another reason other than to eat with my wife. And it's the same way with this bear. When he starts coming into that corn, you need to move your bait pile. So he had to agree with me.
Well, I have always thought ever since, I guess I was still in West Virginia at the time when, the bow season for bear came in, I guess. I'm trying to get the foundation here in my mind as where this, but I always thought that these numbers of bear that were killed by still hunters as opposed to dog hunters. Of course, I was always a dog hunter. My dad was a dog hunter. My friends were all dog hunters. Most of them wouldn't shoot a bear. I didn't even want to shoot a bear when we tree it. Right. You'd have to kind of beg around the tree to get somebody to shoot the bear.
Right.
But I always thought that the only way that these still hunters are killing bears, and I got to make this point. I am not an anti-hunter, and no, I am not against the guy going out there and killing a bear with a bow. If that's his thing, and that's what he gets sport out of and all. But I never believed that he could do that a high percentage of the time without baiting. I can tell you without baiting, okay?
I've hunted as much as anybody.
Yep.
And I've never been stepping in the woods and a bear walk up to me close enough that I could shoot him with a bow.
Yeah, me either.
And I have very seldom ever seen one close enough that I could have shot with a gun. So without dogs and without bait.
Yeah.
I mean, the bow kill in West Virginia is almost as high as a gun kill.
Yeah, and that's the point I was trying to make. It always, to me, and I'm like you, Gary, I wore out a lot of sets of boots, and my old knees will tell you right now, I could get around a whole lot better if I hadn't spent so many years in those mountains climbing up and down.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I didn't see bears out there in the daytime either. Now, I've seen bears in the woods in the daytime, but usually when I saw them was out of a vehicle or something,
right,
where it was crossing the road and something like that. But to see that these guys would just consistently go out there and kill a bear, with their bow, just like like they're walking around in a zoo. No, I never believed that. I believed that majority of the bears that were still kills in West Virginia were killed over bait. And so,
a lot of people don't realize the terrain, how really rugged it is.
yeah,
And first of all, it's steep and cheap's what I call it. But it's absurd to think that now, if you found an apple tree growing out in the woods somewhere that somebody discarded an apple years ago as a volunteer rode up, you might go there and sit down at that apple tree and kill a bear.
yeah.
But that's still baiting.
Well, it is in the broadest sense of the word, for sure. Well, okay, let's peel the layers back a little bit about this. We are concerned as houndsmen for the resource. I think houndsmen are probably more concerned about preserving the bear resource than anybody else. Now I hear some grumblings over in other states, adjoining states and all, that guys are killing sow bears and they're killing young bears and things, and they're killing their sport, which I would agree if that's what they're doing. That's what they are. But, I think that in order for us to manage the bear population properly, we need dogs. We need to be able to do that catch and release. When a bear walks up to a bait pile, most people won't be able to tell whether that's a sow or a boar.
Right.
We look at them, and those of us who've been around them, Gary, we know if he's got a big old wide head and little old ears look like about as big as your thumb, that's a big bear. That's a hoss. When he looks like he's got two ears like a jackrabbit sticking up there over his head, and he's kind of narrow between the eyes, he's probably a cub or not far from it.
Right.
And just things like that, and we always tried to preserve the sows, even to the point that if we could see a cub track with a sow, we wouldn't even turn loose on it.
Exactly.
And I know that and I hope that the younger hunters that are listening to this and that are enjoying dogs, and I'm told, Gary, around the country, especially in areas where there's bear hunting, more of the young people want to get into bear hunting than they do coon hunting anymore.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
I'm too old to bear hunt anymore, but
I am too.
How much I enjoyed it, and I want my great-grandson or your great-granddaughter or whoever to be able to experience what I've experienced.
Yes.
And that's all I have in it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how old are you now, Gary?
75.
Okay, you're just a shade younger than me.
Yeah.
I was talking today to somebody and bringing this subject up, and most of our hunting and the things that we enjoy and trout fishing and I know what it was. My wife and I were watching a program from England, and it showed these people doing a lot of gardening and all this kind of stuff. And I said, Ella, you need to do all that stuff. When you're between like 50 and 65 or maybe 70, you can do that stuff and still get along. But once you hit that 70, that stuff becomes hard to do. And of course, I have just had to resign myself that I can't coon hunt like I used to. And not to even mention bear hunting, and especially not in West Virginia.
I'll tell you what, my granddad was 96 years old, and he was blind. He had macular degeneration.
Yeah.
My wife and I went over and talked to him one day, and I was young and dumb. And I said, it must be bad to get old. And he said, I hope you live long enough to experience it. It didn't mean much to me at the time.
Yeah.
And he said, the only thing you have when you get old is your memories.
Yeah.
Well, you sit around playing video games all your life, you're not going to have much to look back on.
No, that's for sure. Yeah, and I was talking to Fred Bright from down in Georgia. He was originally from up around Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he lived in Knoxville, Tennessee for many years. A great guy. I met him through the coonhound world, black and tan man, and he's been on the podcast this past week. But he said anybody that's ever unsnapped a hound has a story to tell.
Exactly.
And to me, that was very profound and all-encompassing. I mean, you can't turn a hound loose out there and not end up with some memory, something that will come back. And people, I think, wonder, where does Fielder get all these stories? They're just memories is what they are. They're either my personal experiences or something somebody like Gary Knapp told me, you know.
Well, this something that's really getting big in our area with young people. And I should have done the same thing. I drug my grandkids with me, coon hunting and bear hunting when they's too little to go.
Yeah.
But they still love it, both of them.
Well, good. Good.
These people are getting these kids involved in dog hunting with beagles.
Mm-hmm.
You go out there in the daytime, it's warm. They can see. They're not scared of the dark.
Yeah.
They can have their own little dog, and it don't take long to get a dog trained up like it does a bear or a coon dog. It takes a couple of years to get a good one. With a beagle, 6 months, they're seeing some returns on their work.
Yeah.
And a lot of these young kids are getting involved and then go from rabbit hunting into coon hunting into bear hunting.
It's a gateway for sure.
Really getting a lot of young kids started, and I think it's a great thing for them.
Well, I do too, and the only thing about, and I would say the same for squirrel hunting, but a squirrel dog will walk you to death in the mountains.
That's for sure.
I learned. Yeah, I learned that when we started those squirrel programs, you know, at UKC and PKC and so forth. And oh man, did a lot of walking. But yeah, Gary, you and I have the same outlook, or you know, I guess philosophy about this sport is if we can keep it going for the next generation. Now, you know, at my age, I'm going to be 80 in October, and you know, I know I'm not going to have any recollection or any realization, that's what I'm trying to say, of what's going on with this sport or whatever. And hopefully the good Lord's got a place for me up there, he said, where he, you know, that he's gone away to prepare a place for me. And I'm holding on to that hope, you know, with both hands, that I will. But those that are left down here, you know, I just don't want to go away thinking that I didn't do my part to preserve something that I have loved for my entire life, and you know, I've seen some of the bad sides of it, but man, I have seen so much good come out of this love for hounds that we have, and that encourages me to hear that the kids there around there are enjoying beagling and all. My first hound was a beagle, you know, and
right. He wasn't black and white, was he?
No, it was a little old red tick.
I didn't figure you'd want anything black and white.
It was a little red tick, female.
Well, I looked a little English, yeah.
Yeah, and there was a TV show back in those days. I think the guy's name was Jackie Cooper or somebody had. It was called The People's Choice, and they had a basset hound on there, and her name was Cleo. So I named my pup when I got that beagle pup for a birthday present, and I named her Cleo. And man, we wore out those fields back of the house across the highway there behind the Beckley Armory, you know, chasing those bunnies when I was a kid, you know.
Well, I'm not saying that if I was young today that I developed into the dog hunter that I am today, because The kids have so much to do now.
Oh, yeah.
When we were young, when it got dark, your mom and dad told you good things don't happen after dark, so that meant that they didn't want you going nowhere.
That's right.
But you could take a dog and go to the woods, and
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. As far as I'm concerned, is to get these kids off their computers, off their cell phones, have some responsibility, taking care of a dog, feeding the dog,
Yeah.
watering the dog, and enjoying what you do with it. If they don't want to do it, that's great. But
Well,
if you get them involved in it and they like it,
yeah.
it's going to help them.
Well, you know, my dad, we've talked about this before, and my listeners, of course, have heard it, probably sick of it, but my dad was a pipe fitter working up and down the Ohio Valley. He was gone all week. He left on Sunday afternoon after dinner. We'd go to church. Mom would cook dinner. Dad lay down, take a nap. He'd get in the car, and usually carpooled with another guy or two there from our town, and they'd drive somewhere like, up Steubenville, Ohio, or St. Mary's, West Virginia, or somewhere where they were building a chemical plant or a power plant.
Right.
So he had those dogs out there in the back. And it's the ones I said when I named my book, my mom used to look out the back kitchen window and say, "Home, we've gone to the dogs. Look at all them dogs out there." And
told me.
yeah, and so, but guess whose responsibility it was to feed and water those dogs all week while my dad was gone? And boy, and mother, she wasn't on my side. Don't you think in a heartbeat. Well, number one, if I was late or something, she'd say, "You better get out there and feed those dogs. You don't want me to tell your dad that you didn't feed them."
Exactly.
So
it's kind of like having a dairy farm. You know, a dairy farmer, he's got to work 7 days a week. He's got to get up in the morning and milk. He's got to milk in the evening.
That's right. That's right.
If I didn't teach my kids anything else, I taught them that when you have an animal, it's your responsibility to feed and water and make sure it's got clean water at all times.
Yeah.
I believe in being humane to animals.
Oh, yeah. Well, Gary, you know, kids today don't know these things because they don't have an opportunity to learn. You know, we learned how to do everything. When we were kids, and I know you were the same way, we wanted to know how to do everything. If somebody knew how to do something, we wanted to learn how to do it too. You know, it was like a rite of passage or something. It used to burn me up. I'd go down to my grandma's farm in Tennessee, and my cousins would talk about plowing with the mule, Grandpa's mule. Right. And I'd never done that. And man, I felt like I was an outcast. You know,
on something,
yeah, and I had to try it. You know, I'm not going to say I was good at it.
My grandson's, I don't know, 38 years old or something like that now, but he was about 14. We was coon hunting one night, and I was intent listening to the dogs. I was trying to make up my mind for sure what they was doing. I was getting a little bit worried. And I heard his phone making a noise, and I turned around and I said, "What the heck are you doing?" Oh, he said, "I'm texting my girlfriend." I said, "You walk back up her truck, put that cell phone in the truck. You can either stay with it or you can coon hunt with me, either one you want to do." Well, he marched back up there and put the phone in the truck. He come back and he said, "How'd you ever communicate with Grandma?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "If you didn't have a cell phone, how do you communicate with her?" I said, "Well, we went to a one-room school, and I'd write her a note and have somebody pass it up her to her. And one day, the teacher caught me sending her notes, and he made me come up front, made me read
it to the whole class.
And he said, "Well, what did it say?" I said, "Well," it said, "you're the best looking girl on Big Scary."
Big Scary.
Everybody laughed. That's where she's raised at, on Big Scary.
Yeah.
Everybody laughed. And he said, well, I said, she is kind of pretty. I said, yeah. But I said, Big Scary ain't a very big place.
Oh no, Gary is getting in trouble, getting himself in trouble for sure. Well, Gary, back to what we were talking about there, and of course, your take on these kids and getting them involved is exactly the way I believe and what we need to do. But back on this thing on this bear baiting and all. The only motivation for us, you, me, and most houndsmen, I would say, is that, this is going to lead to even more bears being killed by still hunters.
Right.
And my argument to that is this. Well, I could print out a list here of my reasons why I don't think that's a good idea. But, just strictly from the economic standpoint, the houndsman contributes much, much more to the economy of an area or a state through all of the ways that, not only do the dogs cost money, the feed is astronomical. We're feeding 2 dachshunds here in the house, okay? My wife had a dachshund years ago and always wanted another one. We went 4 years ago up to Richmond, Indiana, and got a little male puppy from a coon hunter up there, and loved the little dog. It's been a great little house dog. And so we decided, I don't know, a moment of insanity, that we'd get another one. And so we went up in September and picked up this little female. But I was this dachshund, this male, he's neutered, so he puts on a little weight. So we try to keep his weight managed.
That happened to me. That must be what happened to me, and I didn't know it.
Anyway, yeah, I was paying, what was it, $17 or $18 a bag for a 5-pound bag of this special dog food. It was low cal, all this stuff. And they wouldn't sell it in a bigger bag. And I finally, I complained about it. And I did this last time I went, and I got a 25-pound bag of this dog food for, with tax and all, it was over $70.
Gone.
That's, spending less than $3 a pound, I think, but pretty close to $3 a pound. Now, I remember back in the days when $1 a pound for dog food was a tremendous amount of money. So anyway, we contribute to the, to the economy through vet bills. And that's a whole other subject. I was just talking to somebody today about that. You don't even walk in a vet's office down here without paying a wellness exam fee. That's about $60, $65 or something like that before they even look at the dog. You got to pay that to get in the door. So anyway, with vet bills and dog food and all the other things, and then we hunters, 4-wheel drive equipment, gasoline, tires, oil.
I don't know about all states, but West Virginia, Toyota comes standard with a bear rig or a dog box. When you buy a new one, it comes standard.
I got you. Probably a winch on the front.
Brush guard and a winch.
Oh, yeah. You got my ex-brother-in-law. Well, he's passed on down here in Florida. He always called them Toyotas. Yeah. Well, any area, a guy feels at home when he goes in the area and he pulls in a gas station and half the trucks on the lot have got a dog box in the back of them, But it's not like that down here in some areas. Now, some areas you got a lot of deer hunters in Florida and a lot of hog hunters. So you see a lot of dog boxes down here, but they're not coon.
A friend of mine, Tom Dotson, who was a district biologist here in West Virginia, moved down there to Florida. He lived somewhere called the Villages, wherever that's at. But they had
about an hour and a half north of me.
Okay, they were having a bill about allowing them to bear hunt. And they invited Tom to come and talk and speak about it and all that kind of stuff. But during that period of time, we'd had a bear attack here in West Virginia. I'll send you a picture of it. It almost ate the boy's leg off. But what they found out, it was a cub bear. It had been a cub bear that wasn't ready to be out on its own. And it had made its way. It was a couple of years old, but it was real small. And you know what I'm talking about. Its mother had been killed by someone.
Yeah.
Or something. So they had goats, and he told his wife, said, one of my great pyramids didn't come in, and one of the goats didn't come in. I got to go check on them. He walked up on the hill, and he found this bear had killed a goat, killed the great pyramids, and had it drug on the same pile with the goat, eating them. It seen him and took after him. He run and jumped and climbed in a tree. The bear come up the tree and drug him out and drug him to the pile and started eating him. And it's tremendously bad. I mean, I'll send you a picture of it. But the bottom line is there are some times that there's too many bears. I'll agree to that. And there are bears that want to kill livestock and evidently want to kill people. And those need to be eliminated. There's no doubt about that. But when you're actually selling bears when you turn it over to guides.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being fair for everybody, it'll be like England. It's only the rich people can hunt.
Yeah. It's like it was in Germany, you know, in the days when the plot dogs were first brought over here. If you believe that story, I don't know. It's a good story. I don't know if it's true.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, I have friends in states that are professional guides, you know, like up in Maine and places like that. And, you know, but the thing that concerns me about, and we just had the bear season here in Florida. They had one this year. And I think they killed around 50 bear. Now, they didn't allow dogs yet, but they're supposed to in a year or two. I don't know whether it comes up again for a vote or whatever this year or not, because we got all the bleeding heart bunny huggers in the world down here, especially the ones that have come down from the north, you know.
Right.
But we do have a lot of bears in Florida now. 10 miles up there, not even that, probably 5 miles up Highway 19 from where I live here, there's bear crossing signs. You know, so
well, we was in a DNR meeting one time, and there's a bunch of tree huggers in there. They called themselves greenies.
Yeah.
But my buddy was sitting there with me, and he said something that if I live to be 100 years old, I won't forget. These people had all moved down there from D.C. They worked up in D.C., retired, sold their house for big money, and then moved down there to Pendleton County. And he said, "You people beat all I ever seen. He's country as an apple pie." And he said, they said, "What do you mean by that?" Said, "You talk about West Virginia, what a great place it is. You want to retire in West Virginia. You want to come down here and buy some land in West Virginia. And then when you get down here, the first thing you want to do is change it."
Yeah.
And that is the truth.
Absolutely. They want to change it into the same cesspool that they left.
Right.
You know, and the thing, my wife and I had this conversation today. We were out. And, you know, she's from West Virginia, too. She and I were born on different sides of the same town.
Childhood sweetheart.
Yeah, that's right. She was never a hunter, and her dad wasn't a hunter or anything like that, but she, fully supports hunting and likes to eat wild game and all that. But I said, honey, you know, they are ruining our beautiful Florida with all these housing developments. Everywhere you look down here, they're building concrete. This in Florida, you don't build a stick house; you build it out of cinder blocks and concrete, so it doesn't blow away. And I've always been a guy that's good. What's good for the economy, let's do it. But they really are. They're ruining this beautiful state with just these excessive buildings, and these people are coming from up north, and they're coming down here. Of course, prices got pretty high here back 2 or 3 years ago on homes, and but they've kind of settled down a little bit now. But it'll never be like it was when I came down here. But I'm rambling a little bit, but we're seeing that. We're seeing the destruction of the habitat. And, of course, the bunny hunter girls jump on that. I live in a subdivision here that's 55 and over. Okay, you got to be old to live in here. We got coyotes running up and down the streets. You can be out at night walking a little fluffy dog, and a coyote might come trotting down the sidewalk on the other side of the street. They've been pushed out,
Right.
And right here, you wouldn't believe it, but I can sit here some nights on a summer night and maybe sitting on a patio or something, and a fire engine will go down one of the streets half a mile away, and you'll hear a pack of coyotes fire up, And
Wow.
it's crazy. But, we really need, but I'm rambling all over the place. But the thing of it is, we do have some bear hunters here in Florida. They've always kind of had, really, and I guess I draw some criticism for saying this, but the DNR down our fishing games always kind of had a don't ask, don't tell attitude toward the bear hunters. If you weren't carrying a gun and shooting a bear, they left you alone,
Right.
if you were a hound hunter. But I don't know, but we're seeing what happens really when man and wildlife try to coexist on the same space. And that's what makes those mountains so special to me. There's still a lot of places where a bear can stay that you can't build a condo,
Right. Exactly.
But I don't know. I'm passionate about it like you are, Gary. And is there still? I know you were a very effective lobbyist for. Well, not. I don't know if you were a paid lobbyist or not, but you were spokesman for the West Virginia Bear Hunters and maybe some more groups. Is there an effective lobby against the anti-hunting element or for things like that we're talking about anymore in West Virginia?
To be honest with you, since I retired, not too much.
Yeah. Well,
I wanted to be like a nest of yellow jackets.
Yeah.
All I wanted to be was left alone.
Yeah.
And let me pursue the hobby that I
Yeah.
liked. But if you got in that nest of yellow jackets, then it was bad.
Yeah.
So right now we need another nest of yellow jackets.
Yeah. Well, I've always known that hunters are reactionary.
Yes,
They're not going to do much until they get backed in the corner, until their sport's taken away. Now, if there was a bill like when I was a young man living and working in Beckley, and my dad was president of the West Virginia Bear Hunters at one time, and they started this Save Our Bears campaign in West Virginia through the Charleston Gazette and all that, and they had all that deal. They wanted to stop bear hunting in West Virginia altogether because the black bear is the state animal, and it got ridiculous. I think you and I maybe you remember it.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, one senator, can't remember his name, he got up on the Senate floor and told this big story about watching this pack of hounds and these guys in four-wheel drive vehicles right behind them tearing through the mountains chasing this poor little old bear cub. And finally he ran up a tree and he was up there hanging by one claw or one paw on the limb, swinging back and forth until his little strength gave out, and he finally fell down into that pack of dogs.
Well, it's amazing how people are alive. I mean, it's just really amazing. We were up here in a DNR meeting, or no, it was a legislative meeting with the West Virginia Senate over bear hunting. And what this woman had to do with it, I don't know, but she was Miss West Virginia. And
Yeah.
they were letting her talk, and she said, it's a proven fact that a man that'll mistreat a dog will mistreat his wife and kids.
A proven fact.
I don't care if you're telling me something, but don't lie to me. I stood up and I said, lady, I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm not going to say that I ain't never whipped a dog. And maybe in some people's eyes, I might have mistreated her. But evidently, you don't know my wife. She said, no, I don't. I said, well, I'll tell you one thing. If I mistreat her or the kids, she'd bust a cap on me. And I mean, everybody in there went crazy.
Well, I could get off on politics, and I won't, because it always bites me in the butt when I do. But all the stuff that's going on in this country right now, and you got all these screaming liberals, and most of them are of one gender. They're not mountain women.
No.
A mountain woman ain't gonna approach you quite that way. You might wake up hearing the birdies sing after that cast iron skillet bounced off the back of your head. But I
worked with a boy over at Logan. He come to work one morning. I mean, he looked to me like he'd been run over by a truck. And he was bad to drink.
Yeah.
I said, what happened? Did you get in a fight last night? He said, no. I said, well, what happened? He said, I don't want to talk about it. Well, later in the day, he said, I'm going to tell you, I just about said the woman's name. But anyway, said, you ain't going to believe what she done to me. I said, well, I wouldn't have no idea. He said, I come in last night and I was drunk. And said, she rolled me up into sheets and I couldn't get out. And took a bar of soap and put it in a sock. Said she wore me out all over.
I hadn't heard that approach.
Oh, my. That bar of soap in a sock. It don't leave too many cuts, but it sure does leave bruises.
Oh, imagine. Well, our country needs prayer. Much prayer. We're in a crazy shape, and I got my solutions. I served in the military. I grew up with the dad that I told. We were in the store yesterday, I think, my wife and I mentioned something about my dad. I said, when my dad came back from the Army, he couldn't eat anything. And she said, well, what was the matter with him? I said, well, he lived in a tent in New Guinea for 2 years. And he said they didn't have anything that was fit to eat the whole time he was over there. And he said, I just got to where I couldn't hardly eat. And I think about, what the sacrifices that have been made, for this country. So I get real passionate about it. I get all upset and spun up and wound up, and I honestly sometimes I just sit back and say, well, I don't know what the answer is, but I do believe in prayer, and I believe that God's in control. So I better just leave all that to Him and let Him work it all out. But I know
exactly what you're talking about. I served in the military myself during the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder what did me and my dad and my granddad and my great granddad, we fought in every engagement from a Civil War to Vietnam. I don't know what we fought for.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend. Well, I guess we're still friends, but maybe we aren't. That is. I used to go hunting with him and stayed at his home. But he'd want to argue politics the whole time. And finally, I just got over it. And I said, look, I got uncles. I got an uncle that got his stomach. He fought through the World War II and managed to survive as a career Marine and went in Korea and ended up a grenade exploded over his foxhole, tore his whole about 80% of his stomach out. He laid in a coma up in Seattle or somewhere up there in Washington for months and months and months. I have my mother's brother that was raised down there on Cabin Creek, not all that far from you, was killed in 1943 in Italy, just outside of Italy, and is in a American cemetery there where there are 8,000 troops. And you can get online, I can see his memorial right there with his name on it. All my uncles served, and then, of course, I served during the Vietnam era. I didn't have to go to Vietnam. I was in a support role in Japan. But anyway, all that. So this guy, I told him, I said, man, to you think this is a joke. This country and preserving our country and being patriotic, it's a way of life with me because I've got my family shed blood, for this country.
Exactly.
So it's not a joke to me. And so I have
an ironic story. My dad fought in the South Pacific in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
When the war was over, whatever place you were supposed to invade, if they hadn't dropped the atomic bomb, you went there on the what do they call it?
Occupational force.
Occupation.
Mm-hmm.
You went there on the occupational force. Well, I just thought Japan was one island, but it ain't. There's several islands.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's one island starts with the letter K. Now, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but it starts with the letter K.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandson works for Toyota.
Yeah.
He has a pretty big job for him, and they send him over there to the same island where my dad was on occupation.
No.
To school. Mm-hmm. It's been unbelievable that my dad was there and my grandson was there also. My dad was
pretty
there for
amazing.
one reason. My grandson was there for another reason.
Yeah.
But the people that gave their lives, and they don't have to give their life. You can only offer your life one time. When you join the military, you're offering your life.
Yes, that's right.
I don't care if you're in the Coast Guard or you're in the Air Force stationed in White Sands, New Mexico, or whatever. During wartime, you can only offer your life once. When you join, you've offered your life. And these people that were in prison camps, a good friend of mine, he's dead now, was in a prison camp in Germany.
Yeah.
And the stuff that they had to go through. And then now people want to absolutely burn the American flag. It drives me totally insane.
Yeah, anybody our age with that background and that experience, and just be a student of history, and go back and read of what it took to bring this country to where it is, and these fools want to tear it down, and turn it into some kind of Cuba North or whatever. It's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, and it gets me fired up, and it probably gets my blood pressure higher than it needs to be. But
that's me too.
Yeah.
My great grandfather fought in the Civil War. His name was John Knapp.
Okay.
And he fought for the North in a cavalry unit. And he was shot through and through his neck with a minie ball. They put a silk handkerchief on a stick and run it through there. Supposedly, silk would adhere to to black powder and cut down on the gangrene. And he made it through it, come back, and farmed here in West Virginia, in Putnam County.
Isn't that amazing?
And, it's just unbelievable to me that these people that have never done nothing, and then they want to tell it, just like it's been about the border. And I'm not talking politics. I'm just talking about what is and what ain't. They created this mess, and now they want to tell the Republicans how to fix it.
Well, I tell you what, Gary, you and I agreed wholeheartedly, and I think my listeners know my stance on this. And I don't generally talk about politics on the podcast, and but I am patriotic. I love my country, and I know you do. And there's a lot of us old guys like us that feel the same way. Absolutely. Well, we give that same fervor and that same dedication to this hound hunting because it's a heritage thing. It's something, that came up. My grandfather, Haley in Tennessee, was a fox hunter. My dad's dad was not a hunter, but, I don't know if you and I talked about this or not, but I think I brought it up one time, and I guess I'm going to mention it again. My grandmother was born on Cabin Creek in West Virginia. Her parents were from eastern Kentucky. And my grandpa, and their name was Hatfield. And my grandpa's name was Samuel Isom, Isom, Hatfield. My mother was born at Rhonda, a little old wide place in the road there on Cabin Creek. But anyway, my grandfather always said, well, we're not part of those feuding Hatfields. Okay?
Right.
Like he... So when I got old enough, or we got these computers and I could get on the internet and do some research and all that, I researched Grandpa's family tree all the way back to a guy named George Hatfield. I think it was like in 1600 and something, or maybe early 1700s. And he had two sons. Names were Joseph and Jeremiah. And my grandpa came down from the one named Jeremiah, I believe. Now, I might be confusing these two. But anyway, and there was a lot of people that lived to be very old on that line. Okay. My mother lived to be 100 years and 11 days old.
Wow.
So, yeah. So anyway, I chased it all the way from Grandpa back, okay, to this guy, George Hatfield. Well, I said, well, Grandpa said we weren't related to old Devil Anse and that clan over there. So I'm going to check it out. Checked him back, went all the way back, and he traced right back to that brother of my ancestors, either Joseph or Jeremiah, and I never can remember which one was which, but they came down from brothers, Right. So that mountain heritage, and of course, old Anse Hatfield, he liked to bear hunt. He had hounds.
Something that you may not know.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, when he's dead now, but when he was a young guy, this young man used to come by riding a horse and leading dogs. He was a bounty on bears then.
Yeah.
And I said, what kind of dogs was they? Oh, he said, they're them ones got them stripes on it. I said, clock dogs? He said, well, I don't know. They had stripes on them like a tiger. I said, what was the guy's name? He said, Cat Hatfield. So that might be where you got your pluck.
Yeah, that could be some of it. I know Isaiah Kidd, when my dad got some of his earliest dogs he got from Isaiah Kidd, who was, from around Beckley there. He was the sheriff for Raleigh County. Then he retired over into Monroe County, and that's where we used to go and hunt on his farm when I was young. But he told about those brindle dogs that they had when he was a boy coming up, And so when I was in college, Isaiah was already in his 80s. So that'd been a while back, but that was there in southern West Virginia. They had brindle dogs around there, So, yeah. Well, and go ahead. He
said that Cap Hatfield was bored with his grandmother. He's coming because he's been told there's a bear. There's a bounty on bears. So he comes because he's heard about it in that area.
Yeah.
And he's bored there with his grandmother. They said he was too little to ever go or know much about it, except he had dogs with tiger stripes on them.
Yeah. How about that? This heritage, and it goes way back, and you can get into just about any hound breed that you want to pick and trace whether it's black and tans to what they call the old glory hounds that they brought across the Darby plains of Ohio, on covered wagons and all of this kind of stuff. There's heritage that goes back, to the very foundations of this country. And so when we talk about things that involve hound hunting, like this, these attempts to open up, almost, it's open season on bear for anybody that wants to go out there and shoot one if they open up all these baiting provisions. It means something. It's something we want to preserve. It's just like our country. Or our family heritage, or our dogs. My dad brought the first registered plot home in 1954. He'd had a grade plot or two, I think, before then. So I've been around them since then. That's been a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so I was about 8 years old when that happened.
I was in a DNR meeting one time, and the commissioners was there, and I was telling them about my ancestry from the Civil War to the present date and all the conflicts we fought in and all that kind of stuff. And this commissioner said to me, he said, what does that have to do with the DNR? I said, it has everything to do with it. Well, he said, what does it have to do with it? I said, the pursuit of happiness. That's what we fought for. The pursuit of happiness. And you all trying to take this pursuit of happiness dog hunting away from you.
Yeah, think about it. That's exactly right. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And this is what, but the problem is with people in this country, and here again, I could very easily slide up on my political platform or podium, but it's not about animals. It's not about guns. It's not about, abortion or whatever. It's all about control.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it's about controlling someone else. You're a hound hunter, your hounds bark. They disturb me sometimes, therefore I don't think you should be able to have hounds, and therefore you should not be able to hunt with those hounds. And I watched the Disney movie, and there was a fuzzy bear cub on there, and I don't think you should be able to harvest those cubs. And on and on and on and it goes. But it's all about control. These people want to control our way of life. And
they want us to conform to what they think is right.
Sure. Everything is wrong except what they believe. And that everybody should believe exactly. Huh?
Where you live, I'm sure that you live in an HOA.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that is a perfect example of it.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
He lives in Florida, and he's the president of the HOA. His wife is the auxiliary. Her and her friends walk around every day through the community with a tape measure. If your lawn furniture is not supposed to be over 24 inches on the front porch and it's 32, they make you take it down. If your mailbox ain't the right height, they cut it down. I mean, and she was talking to my wife, said, you and Gary going to move down here? She said, no. I said, why not? I said, well, we come down there and look at property, but about anything that we would like to live in within an HOA. And she said, oh, honey, said, that's the Barry's HOA is. She said, I can't imagine Gary Knapp in a HOA. He can't stand for nobody telling him what to do.
That's right. Well, Gary, it's a catch-22. If you come down here, and Ella laughs at me when I came down here looking for a house, and I'd see these signs on the corners. It'd say what did it say? Two bedroom, 2 baths, and a 2-car garage. And they just put 2/2/2. And then it'd be like $50,000. I said, well, a house for $50,000, man, I want one of them, you know. But you go there, and the guy next door's got 3 or 4 junk cars up on blocks.
Right.
Got an overstuffed couch sitting out on the front door porch, a couple refrigerators.
Well,
So,
this
but
makes you feel like you're back in West Virginia.
yeah, back home,
trailer.
up the holler. That's right. But you know, and then, but at the same time, I'm living here on a nice big wide street. You know, they sent me a notice from the HOA that I had mold on my sidewalk. Okay. So I get out there and I get out the power washer out there and power wash off the mold, or that the numbers on my, instead of being just on your mailbox, well, you have to have them on your mailbox, but there's a curb that runs along there, and they paint the numbers on that curb, so I guess at night fire trucks or whatever can see them better. Told me my numbers were too faint, that I needed to repaint the numbers. I said, look, you got a guy down the street down here that's got trees growing out of the gutters on the side of his house.
Right.
Why are you harassing me over faded numbers on my mailbox? I said, my mailman knows how to get my mail to me.
It's crazy, I'm telling you. I try to treat people like I want to be treated.
Yeah.
But it's like the city here. They decided that they wanted to put my place in, I own several acres here. They want to put it in the city limits. And I told them, no, I wasn't going in the city limits. Well, yeah, we're going to force you in. Well, I had to get a lawyer, go down there and meet with the mayor. And he said, why don't you want to be in the city limits? I said, lots of reasons. Well, he said, I'd like to know what they are. I said, well, I have some friends over and we're cooking out in the yard and they're drinking beer. They can be arrested. You have open container law. He said, do you drink? I said, I do not. But if I have friends and they want to drink, I want them to be able to. And he said, well, we don't enforce that. I said, yeah, but you can.
Yeah.
He said, well, give me another reason. I said, okay, I go to the hospital and my wife ain't able to mow this ground and it gets over 3 inches tall. You all send in a city crew and they mow it and weed eat and send me a bill for $500. And he said, well, we normally don't do. I said, yeah, you do that. I know people who've done it too. And he said, well, I just don't understand. You'd have better police protection. I said, I got all the protection in the house that I need.
There you go.
So,
yeah,
I didn't go into city limits, but anyway.
That's good.
Just, they
That's
want
good.
to control you and you to do what they think you need to do.
Well, that's right. That's right, Gary. Well, hey, did you get to go and listen to a bear race or anything this year?
No, I didn't. I wasn't feeling very good. I'm having trouble with my knees. And,
yeah.
I just my grandson, he moved down to North Carolina. And my boy, he works in a coal mine. He don't get no time off.
Yeah.
I just don't even have no hounds now. I ain't got nobody to handle them.
Well, I understand that. You know, I've had to partner with my dogs. You know, I've got one of the better dogs I ever had right now, but I don't get to hunt him very, very rarely. He's up in North Carolina with my partner. Right. And of course, he's enjoying him. He's taking great care of him and all. And, you know, I had the pup, and I just gave him half interest in him. I said, you know, he's as much yours as he is mine, but I need you to do the work on him, you know. And right. He's been a great partner and all. And then we got a young one out of him that's doing really good. And you know, he's got a ways to go. He's already made night champion, but he's you know, he's not anywhere near where his daddy is right now. But anyway, that's what I've had to do. I've had to get partners and all. And, you know, I know, and I hated to do it. But in my dad's latter years, is when I moved away to Michigan. And some of the boys around Beckley told me, he said, when you left, Steve, your dad he'd call often and just wanted to talk dogs. And there were some guys but really did take him hunting and let him enjoy his hounds,
Great.
the last few years and all. But, hey, like Nathan Ed's, White Oak, West Virginia says, Steve, we're standing in the checkout line. So,
Right.
Well, Gary Knapp, I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to ask you to send me the bill numbers on those bills and the information, and I'll do my best to get the word out.
When you get them bills, they've got this stuff hidden. They're so good.
Okay.
But if you read the very last line, it tells you what the purpose of this bill is. And that's where it'll tell you about the baiting.
Okay. Their idea is that guys are killing bear over deer baits, so why not give them the opportunity just to have their own baits?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also, if this one bill passes, it says that you can bait any wildlife in West Virginia. So that means that you can bait turkeys also.
Oh, yeah.
So the turkey hunters should be sided in with the bear hunters on this stuff.
Well, I would sure think so, but I know my brother had put out deer for corn for the deer just to watch them out his picture window there in Virginia. He never shot a deer there. He's killed deer.
When I was a kid, we baited.
Oh, I
bet.
bet.
Take slop and pour it in the trough, and the hogs would come up there to eat, and then you shoot them between the eyes. That's kind of baiting.
That was baiting, wasn't it? Yeah, that was baiting. Okay, Gary Knapp, Hurricane, West Virginia. Now that's you. If you lived in Florida, they'd say hurricane, but that's hurricane, isn't it?
Yeah, we pronounce it hurricane.
That's right. That's right.
But it is spelled hurricane.
Yeah, but when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do.
Right.
You go to Kentucky, you don't say Louisville, you say Louisville.
I want to talk just a little bit about plots.
Okay, let's do it.
This young man that lives here in West Virginia up at Richwood, I'm not sure about the strain of plots he's got because I don't know. But I can tell you one thing. When you talk about bear dogs, this boy's got them.
Yeah.
I mean, got them.
Yeah.
He's got the best pack of plot dogs in this state, in my opinion.
I got you.
He is a good young man. His boy hunts, and he's very successful. He's a businessman. Now, he wasn't a businessman when he started bear hunting. He had very little. But now he's pretty wealthy. But he still stays with them plot dogs. And you can't talk. He called me here a while back and said, anybody that's got a good coon dog for sale? I said, well, I can probably find you one. And I made some phone calls. I just took for granted he wanted a coon dog. And I found a pretty good dog that a buddy of mine had. I called him and he said, what brand is he? I said, it's a Walker dog. Oh, he said, no, my God. I said, what? He said, there ain't going to be no Walker dog tied up here at my house. He said, you'll have to find me a plot dog. I said, well, no, that takes a little bit more effort. I said, you didn't tell me that in the first place. He said, well, I want you to find me a good plot coon dog. Well, I found him one, but it was a little more work involved.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. I owned one of the best plot dog coon dogs that this world has ever had. I mean to tell you, he was a sight.
Yeah,
My granddaughter was about 8 years old and hunted in the UKC youth hunt with him. And she was a high-scoring plot. I don't know what all, but she didn't win it, but she should have. But, you have nights like that. But he was a powerhouse.
Yeah.
When you unsnapped him, the next time you saw him, he was treed.
Oh,
It didn't matter.
Yeah,
I
I
really
think
like
you
him.
told me about that dog several years ago. That's been a while back, hadn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's been long, 20 years ago probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's one of the better dogs that I ever owned, I can tell you
Do
that.
you remember where you got him?
I got him off of Ray Vine, but Ray had got him out in Kansas, I think,
Okay.
or Illinois. It might have been Illinois.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the dog's name was RJ,
Mm-hmm.
and his daddy's name was Revenge, I think.
Oh, okay. That would have been Brent Zink in
Yeah,
Ohio.
that's where he come from.
Yeah,
Brent Zink.
his revenge dog was out of that Bayou Jake breeding out of Iowa, Rex Morgan's breeding. Yeah,
That's where he
that's
come from.
good. That's good breeding. In fact, this dog that we have, we call him Fever, and his mother goes back to Jake there. Yeah, that's good stuff. Doesn't surprise me. He was a good one. Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like about him, and it's like having a woman. It's hard to find one perfect. I did find one that was perfect, but in dogs, it's awful hard to find one that's perfect. When you done snap him, I'm not sure that he wouldn't go by coons to get away from you. Every time he treed, it wanted to be a long ways off.
I see.
We was coming out of the woods one night. We was in some big timber. My grandson was with me, and he tricked me like that before, that dog would. He'd act like he struck on the lead strap, get him, turn him loose because you want to go home.
Yeah.
And we was walking out of there in some big timber, and all of a sudden he just jumped on a tree and hugged it and started treeing every breath. I said, "You SOB, I'll kick the lungs out of you." My grandson said, "You better look up that tree before you start kicking him." Looked up where the big coon said, he treated on the lead strap.
Oh boy.
And he was a good one.
Yeah, those good ones. We never forget them, Gary. That's for sure.
I like it.
And I've been blessed to have a few. We always Dad always had a dog that I could take and go tree coons with, and if a club had a hunt, I could go participate, and I win some, lose some. But I always had a tree dog. Always had a dog that would tree game and show it to me. And that's been the thing with me. My dad's thing. He was a bear hunter. He liked that speed. Man, he wanted them to run to the front.
Right.
I always liked that tree dog. When I walked up there, I wanted to see eyes. When I walked up to that tree, and Dad, he would go coon hunting with me, and he grew up a possum hunting and all in Tennessee, but he always just did it for the dogs. I mean, sometimes he wouldn't even look up the tree. He'd be watching the dogs the way they're treeing and listening to them and grinning like a possum.
When I was young, there wasn't no coons here. You couldn't even find a coon track.
Yeah.
We possum hunted and fox hunted. We got there on Peach Ridge one night. I won't say what the boy's name is because I don't like to embarrass anybody. The hounds was running. I didn't have no hounds in the race. But my friend did. He was an older gentleman. His name was Bill Frazier. He won the national championship a couple of times. He had some real hounds. And the dogs was running, and this boy kept saying, "Oh, there's old Crybaby. She's in front." I'd go out of here and come back, and he'd start again. Said, "There's old Crybaby," said, "she's right in front." But Bill wasn't saying nothing, but it's burning me up because I noticed Bill's dogs. I wasn't very old, 14 or 15 maybe. I had to go over to the bank to use the bathroom, walked over to the bank with a flashlight, and I said, "Hey, come down here a minute, I want to show you something." He said, "What do you want to show me?" I said, "Come down here." He walked down there, and their late Crybaby rolled up in a ball and a bunch of leaves. He wasn't long in leaving that night.
He was packing up and going home, wasn't he?
Yeah. Old Crybaby. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, well, I think that all goes back to those old fox races, I imagine that country where you live years and years ago, you could hear some powerful fox races in that country. Yeah, guys set up on a high place, and there's been
my wife's dad, he was a fox hunter.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how much he liked it. They lived up a hollow. They didn't have no electric when my wife graduated from high school. Mom cooked on a wood stove, 9 kids, and didn't have much. Farm for a living,
Yeah.
tobacco. Raised mostly what you ate.
Yep.
In the wintertime, when it's a big snow like we got now, her dad would go out there and kill a couple of chickens, take them up on the hill and throw them out for the fox to eat so they wouldn't starve to death.
Wow.
That is being dedicated.
That is it. That is it for sure. For sure. Well, Gary, it's been wonderful to catch up with you again, buddy. Thanks so much
right.
for the phone call, and I'll do what I can to spread the word on. And we need to take care of that state animal of West Virginia.
We certainly do.
Yeah, and you've done a tremendous job in your tenure down through the years, working in the legislature, and the old saying about walk softly and carrying a big stick, and you always did. And appreciate all the work that you did for the hunters in West Virginia. My dad was that kind of man too. You know, he fought for. Well, I won't get into all of that. I've probably covered it before, but guys like you, the old saying, like that song, "Who's going to fill their shoes?" We need younger guys to step up and be Gary Knapps and be home and fielders and be people that, really do this hound thing for the right reason. That's just because they love it.
Your dad and I had a lot in common. We both served in the military, and we both were president of the West Virginia Bear Hunters Association.
Right, for sure.
We had a lot in common.
Yeah, you certainly did. I guess that's why I enjoy talking to you so much. And you might find this interesting, but today is my dad's birthday. He would be 106 years old today.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Well, at least he hadn't been forgotten.
Oh no, he never will. As long as I'm breathing, I think about something he said just about every day, and I'm not ashamed to tell him about it. I talk to him all the time. I said, "Boy, Dad, I wish you were here to tell me what to do."
Yeah,
Dad was always Dad was always teaching. He was always showing me something. Hey, let me show you.
Got smart though. When I was 18, he didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
By the time I was 40, he was pretty smart.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
He learned a lot in that period of time.
Yeah, January 29th, 1920 was when my dad was born on a little 80-acre farm in Dixon County, Tennessee. Went away to the Army in 1939. Went through basic and all at Fort Benning, Georgia. And it was a real thrill for us to be able to go back to Fort Benning here this past year and watch our granddaughter graduate from advanced infantry training and at the top of her class and get great. She was one of the 6 or 8 at the top of that class of 200 or some that got promoted right there on the spot to private first class and real proud of her.
I can see that.
Grandpa would have been so proud. He'd have buried her with Fort Benning stories if he'd have been there.
Well, my personal hero, is from Tennessee.
Oh, yeah?
Sergeant York.
Oh, yeah. What? Well,
he and I had a lot in common. I started out about like he did.
Yeah.
Maybe not ended up as good as he did, but I started out about like he did.
Oh,
sometimes you have to get a little age on you before you know what's right and wrong.
Well, that's true. And hindsight's 20/20, they say. Yep. Gary Knapp, you take care of yourself, brother. Take care of that wonderful wife of yours, and stay warm. Keep a log on the fire, and I'll talk to you again soon.
All right, mate. Later,
right.
Bye.
Bye. Well, folks, that's my old friend, longtime friend, Gary Knapp. Gary has stories. My goodness. A funny guy, but man, he was an effective lobbyist for the bear hunters. for many years there in West Virginia, and you can see that even though he's no longer in that capacity, he's still keeping his ear to the ground and knows what's going on in the state, and he's concerned about these bills that are throwing the door wide open to baiting black bears. I don't know. Baiting is controversial. Some areas it's been done, without incident. And I know in Michigan we fought for Prop D, or to defeat Proposition D, and to pass Proposition G, which put the management of the wildlife resource in the experts' hands in the DNR. So we fought to preserve baiting. So we all have our views, and we all have our positions on these issues. All I can ask you to do is, if you are opposed to the baiting of black bears in the state of West Virginia, then you need to contact your representatives about this bill. I once again want to thank Gary Knapp, and I always want to thank my sponsors, Buddy and Jess Woodbury out there in Oregon with W Hunting Supply. Such a great company, such great people to work with. I've been fortunate to work with them now on this podcast and for several years, and just great people. I will say that I heard from my old buddy Jason Doobie this week. Jason formerly worked with W Hunting Supply, and it was great to catch up with Jason. He's doing a guide thing on the river there in Oregon. The name of the river escapes me right now, but anyway, the contacts that we make over this country, through this sport of hunting with hounds, are just so important. They're so important to my life. I know as Nubbin Moore and I are getting ready to go out to Batesville, Mississippi, to the UKC Winter Classic. Certainly looking forward to seeing many of you out there. We'll be out there. It'll be Valentine's weekend. I think the dates are 13th and 14th. I believe we'll be out there maybe the day before. But anyway, for anybody out there that enjoys hound talk and just talking dogs and meeting some of the people from around the country that have a history with hounds, or maybe they're newbies, or maybe they're the veterans, we try to get them on the Gone to the Dogs podcast so their stories can be shared with you. If you listen to this podcast, tell somebody else about it. Tell them you can find Gone to the Dogs anywhere you can find a podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those places. And my podcasts always are titled Gone to the Dogs. And we just urge you to please tell somebody about the podcast so that we can get a good return of interest back to our sponsors who make this possible. Anyway, this is Steve Fielder, the old coon hunter, one-time bear hunter, all-time houndsman. Not doing it. I'm thinking about it. If you're looking for me, there's a pretty good chance you'll find me. I've gone to the dogs.